Hi, and thank you for viewing this. This is just a review of the brief training that we have for the telephone service in Connaught for Connaught Intergroup. And okay, so you can pause this video as you move through the material at any time. If we're moving too fast or if I'm moving too fast, you can of course pause this and you can collect telephone numbers or any other detail as you required. So the call, it's important to say that the call can happen anytime. It can happen at any place. It can happen when we're at work. It can happen when we're on the street. It can happen when we're in a cafe. It can happen when we're with other people. So it's important to to be aware of that and how you're going to respond to your telephone call if it's coming in from a caller looking for help from Alcoholics Anonymous. The ideal phone accessory is earphones. The reason would be that you can see your phone while you're taking the call, you can see meeting information, and you can also record the call on your report as well, which is an online form. Essential requirements for telephone service are an up-to-date national directory. If the caller wants a meeting now, or if you're looking for a 12-step responder or contact in a specific area outside of your own area, you will find a list of names in this directory to help you. And if you can't find them in the directory, you can always add a query to our WhatsApp group. Information that you need from the caller: you need to find out if they have a drink problem. You also need to find their first name, and you need their location and their phone number. Again, they may not be in the town that you're taking the call in. Connaught is a wide area, and you must record this information on a separate piece of paper. Before we move on to the remainder, let's just talk a little bit about GDRP, which is General Data Protection Regulations. And this European law and Irish law states that we must obtain the caller's explicit permission to pass on or use his or her phone number to give to a 12-stepper. So please be aware of that when you're taking someone's telephone number and you're passing it on to a 12-stepper. We also need to obtain any other information that may be helpful to the 12-stepper as well. The do's and don'ts of phone service: we would never give out AA members' telephone numbers unless their permission is gained first. We never leave 12-step messages on our members' answer machines. We do not leave the telephone to do a 12-step call yourself. This is kind of common sense. We don't attempt a 12-step call while we're on duty. Remember that we're telephone responders, we're not 12-steppers. Do not write the address or phone number of the caller on the phone log report, only on that separate piece of paper that can be destroyed after it's passed on to the 12-stepper. Do not pass on 12-step calls during unsociable hours, kind of common sense, especially between 10 p.m. and 8 a.m. or even 9 a.m. in the morning. Do log all calls. We'll come into why that is important later on. Do dial #31# before you dial a number if you find that you're requested to return a call. This will protect your anonymity. And you've all heard my story about the bullying incident that went on, where one of our telephone responders didn't use the #31#. Do contact your telephone convener if you're unable to cover your shift or are unable to arrange cover. with an existing responder. Remember, this is an information line, but it's also considered a helpline as well for the suffering alcoholic to get to their first meeting. And we want to be able to be there at all times. And if you're unable to take the call, then we need to get that phone diverted to someone else. How to respond to the caller if the caller is a suffering alcoholic. As the first contact with AA, your role is to put them in touch with someone who can help them. That's our job. We obtain their first name, telephone number, and permission to pass this on to the 12-stepper. We need to assure the caller that help will be forthcoming and that another member will be in touch. Do not promise that the contact will be immediate, because sometimes this is not always possible. We need to contact the 12-stepper with the same gender and local area and pass on the details. We then need to enter the login report, the first name of the caller, the first name of the 12-stepper. And the reason for this is if a follow-up is needed, then we need to know which John or Mary or James or John or Jack handled the 12-step call. If the caller is from outside the local area, we need to pass on their details to the relevant telephone service. And we know that Galway has a telephone service, and we also have the national telephone service as well. And you can pause the video here if you need to collect those phone numbers. If the caller is a family member or a friend, we must remember that we can only help the alcoholic who talks to us. So they will need to speak with the drinker first, and if that's not possible, then we suggest that they visit the AA website, which has a lot of information for friends and family members, and that's alcoholicsanonymous.ie. Or we can also pass them on to the National Al-Anon contact number as well, which is located here. And Al-Anon also have their own website with information for family and friends of alcoholics. You should keep a record of all calls you receive on the log sheet, however trivial, and this is for the following reasons: to aid you in passing accurate information or details of a call to another member for 12-step purposes, in order to maintain a record of the number and types of calls received, so that area and Connaught Intergroup may better inform ourselves of how the service is working. We also need to keep a record as a safeguard should there be a subsequent query. For example, the original message has been received incorrectly or has been lost by another member, the caller phones back, and so on. We need to keep a record as a means of sharing experience with other telephone responders so that we may learn together how we might improve and benefit our service. We make a record immediately after dealing with the call whilst the details are fresh in our memory. The online address of the report form is on the last page of this document, and you're asked to copy them for your own use. Of course, that's on the hard copy. This is the video. Please note, try to keep your conversation brief. Someone else may be trying to get hold of you. Remember that you can get a call at any time. And we also receive hoax and cruel calls. These should be dealt with as coolly as possible, sober as possible, in other words. Please remember that the telephone service exists to receive calls from suffering alcoholics and outside agencies. It's not intended to provide immediate rescue in the same way as a fire brigade or ambulance service. Do not commit AA or the 12-stepper to anything. We can offer compassion, hope, and a promise that we will respond to the best of our ability. You're not responsible for any actions that another person decides or makes. Frequently asked questions: what happens if the caller is drunk? We suggest that the caller be treated with respect. Do not take or pass on his or her phone number. They may not wish to hear from us when they're sober, so just suggest that they call back the next day. Try not to let them tie up the line for too long. What if the caller has no phone credit? Again, we suggest returning the call to the caller if they run out of credit. Here we need to exercise your evaluation of the caller's need. Protect your own anonymity and number by dialing #31# before the number that you wish to call. What if I miss a call? Should I phone them back? Experience says no. Although we live in the age of mobile phones kept by individuals, there is still the possibility that someone else could answer their phone and we could break their anonymity. So what if the caller is abusive? Again, we suggest that the caller be treated with respect, but try not to let them tie up the line for too long or be drawn into an argument with them. Remember, now is the time that we should be practicing our own sobriety. What if the caller just wants to chat? And this happens regular. Again, try not to let the caller tie up the line for too long. Respectfully disengage as best you can, explaining that the line is for those looking for help. What if the caller is looking for help for someone else? I think we've answered this one already. We respectfully inform the caller that we can only help those alcoholics who contact us directly. We do not try to convince problem drinkers to stop drinking, and we suggest passing on the number and website of Al-Anon. And again, we have the Al-Anon number here, as well as their web address. And you can pause this here in order to gather that information. What if the caller is from a doctor or a counsellor? Calls from counsellors and doctors inquiring about what AA does are best dealt with by our Connaught Intergroup PI and should be referred to that number, or to that member, should I say. What if the caller wants the number of a treatment centre or a counsellor? Again, we refrain, we don't give out contact details for treatment centres or for counsellors. The caller may interpret the passing on of that information as an endorsement of the centre or the counsellor by Alcoholics Anonymous, or as an affiliation between us. Such misunderstandings are best avoided. We're not affiliated. What if the call is from a journalist or the media? Again, we refer local journalists, local media to our local PI committee, and national journalists to GSO. What if the call is from an AA member looking for meeting information? This happens a lot. The phone service is for the suffering alcoholic reaching out for help, and we have many other ways of presenting meeting information. And don't forget as well that sober members may also be looking for help at getting to meetings. Here we need to exercise our evaluation of the caller's need. If we have immediate access to the information, you can pass it on. What are the qualifications for telephone service? First of all, we need a working knowledge of the 12 steps and 12 traditions. We also need 1 to 2 years continuous sobriety, and we must undertake the telephone service training program. It's also an advantage to already have done service, such as secretary at your local home group, and to have a sponsor in the fellowship. We have a WhatsApp group. Best practice suggests to keep the WhatsApp group exclusively for Connaught phone service. People leave groups when they become polluted with non-associated discussions, even well-intentioned jokes and funny stories. We need more admins for the WhatsApp group. To continue, we need a few more admins to add new members to the group and to add continuity to our service. How the divert works, the logistics of diverting the Connaught phone number to your personal phone number. And again, I must emphasize that it's to your personal phone. Your service starts each Monday at 12. This is an example of our calendar, and you can see here that each telephone responder is on duty for a 1 week period, that's seven days, between 12 p.m. and 10 p.m. Your service starts each Monday at 12 noon. Uh, the phone convener will divert the calls to your phone at this time, and it will be your prerogative to answer any unknown numbers outside the 12 noon to 10 p.m. period. And remember that you can receive phone calls from the suffering alcoholic looking for help outside of this period as well. Your anonymity is precious and must be remembered that we're diverting the AA phone to your personal phone, and your duration of service or your period of service is seven days. You will need to answer the phone differently, as we've already said. If you do not recognize the number, we suggest that you answer with hello, hi, this is Casey, this is Mary, this is James, this is John, and so on. And you may also need to change your answer machine message too, especially if it contains your surname. Remember, we want to protect your anonymity. Your anonymity is precious and needs to be protected at all times. I want to thank you for your service. If you're watching this video, that means that you're part of the telephone service of Connaught, and thank you.